All right, let's talk about how some teams manage to build really complex stuff like new software or launching huge projects without everything just falling into chaos. Ever wondered about that? Well, the secret is often this powerful mindset called Agile. So we're going to dive in and see how this whole approach can take these massive, overwhelming goals and actually turn them into something you can manage and, actually succeed at.
You know the feeling, right? We've all been part of that one giant project. It kicks off with all this excitement and promise, but then it just slowly starts to spiral. Deadlines get missed, the budget gets completely blown, and everyone is just frustrated. It's such a common story, but here's the thing. It really doesn't have to be that way.
So where does that chaos usually come from? A lot of the time, it's from this old school way of doing things called the waterfall method. This is where you have to create this massive, super detailed plan for everything right from the very beginning. But, what happens when something unexpected comes up? And something always comes up, right? The whole plan can just fall apart. Now, Agile is totally different. It's practically built for change. The whole idea is to work in these small, flexible cycles so you can learn and adjust as you go.
Okay, so the magic ingredient here, the thing that really makes Agile work, is this idea called progressive elaboration. Now that sounds fancy, but the concept is actually pretty simple. It's not about having no plan at all, that would be chaos. It's about having a smarter plan. You map out the very next steps in really sharp detail, but for everything further down the road, you keep it high level and flexible. That way, when new information pops up, you can adapt without completely derailing the whole project.
All right, so how do we actually put this mindset into practice? It all starts with what I like to call the blueprint, basically a really clear way to structure the work. Let's break down how Agile takes a huge vision and turns it into things you can actually do day to day.
So at the very top of the pyramid, we've got the epic. And an epic is just a really big chunk of work, like a major business goal. It's way too big to just do. So to make this real, let's imagine we're planning a music festival. You wouldn't just have a goal that says book bands. That's too vague. Your epic would be something big and exciting, like securing the headline acts. Now, you can't just secure the headliners. You have to break that epic down into smaller, more manageable pieces, and these are called stories. A story is a specific part of the goal that you can actually finish in a short amount of time. So, back to our music festival, a story might be booking the band The Explainers. See? It's a real, tangible chunk of that bigger goal.
And we can get even more granular. Every story is made up of individual tasks. These are the nitty-gritty, specific steps you have to take. To book our band, what do you need to do? Well, you have to do things like email the contract to the band's agent. This is the actual how-to, where the rubber really meets the road.
And just like that, you've created this perfect, traceable line from the huge vision, the epic, down to the valuable piece of work, the story, and all the way to the tiny action item, the task. Your big vision literally becomes a to-do list. And this is so important because now everyone on the team knows exactly how the little thing they're doing today connects to that huge, important goal.
Okay, so we have our blueprint, the work is all broken down and structured, but how do we actually do it? How do we manage the flow? Well, for that you need an engine. These are the different systems for getting work from the to-do column over to done. Now, the two most popular engines you're going to hear about are Scrum and Kanban. Think of Scrum as being all about rhythm. It uses these fixed-length work cycles, they're called sprints, to create a really predictable beat for the team. Kanban, on the other hand, is all about flow. It's more of a continuous process. The main goal there is to visualize your work and just keep making the flow smoother and smoother. So really, it's rhythm versus flow.
So if you're using Scrum, that rhythm comes from a few key meetings, or ceremonies as they're called. You've got sprint planning, which is, where you plan the sprint. The daily stand-up is a quick check-in to see who's doing what. The sprint review is where you show off everything you've finished. And the retrospective is where you look back and ask, how can we do this even better next time? This whole cycle keeps everyone on the same page and moving forward.
Kanban's real power comes from its visual board. It's super simple. Work just moves from left to right. But there's a secret weapon here, and it's the work in progress limit, or WIP limit. By saying, hey, we can only work on, say, 3 things at a time, you stop the team from getting overloaded. It immediately shows you where the bottlenecks are, and it forces a huge mental shift from starting lots of work to finishing work.
Okay, so we have a blueprint and we have an engine. That's great. But how do we know if we're actually on course? How do we know we're going in the right direction? Well, you need a compass. And in the world of Agile, our compass is data.
using real numbers to measure how we're doing and figure out how to get better.
So this number, 38, represents a team's velocity. It's the average amount of work they get done in one of those sprints. Now that work is usually measured in story points, which are just a rough guess at how much effort something will take. It's not about hours. And this is critical. Velocity is not a weapon to judge a team. It's a forecasting tool. It's how a team can look at a big epic and say, okay, based on our average speed, this is probably going to take us about 5 sprints to finish. It's incredibly powerful for planning.
So, measuring your speed is one piece of the puzzle. But what about quality? I mean, it doesn't do you any good to move fast if the stuff you're finishing is broken or isn't actually complete. This leads to maybe one of the most important questions an Agile team has to answer for itself.
And the answer is something called the definition of done. Think of it like a quality contract that the whole team agrees on. It's a simple checklist. Before anyone can say a piece of work is done, it has to meet every single item on this list. And it's not just, is the code written? It's things like, has it been reviewed? Are the tests passing? Did we make sure it does what it's supposed to do? This builds quality right into the process.
So, let's put it all together. You've got the blueprint for structure, the engine for flow, and the compass for direction. What do you get? Well, you get the Agile advantage. And this is what helps us finally solve that problem of big, chaotic projects we talked about at the beginning.
What this all boils down to is a few huge benefits. First, you get way better visibility and communication. Everyone knows what's going on. Second, it strikes this amazing balance between having enough structure to stay on track, but enough flexibility to change when you need to. And, maybe most importantly, it lets you deliver real value to people, faster. You're not waiting for one giant, high-risk launch at the very end. You're shipping small improvements and learning from them constantly.
When you really get down to it, Agile is so much more than just a process for managing work. It's a mindset. It's a way of looking at any overwhelming challenge and saying, okay, how can I break this down into small, achievable steps? It's about learning as you go and not being afraid to change course. So think about it. What's that one huge goal in your own life that just feels impossible right now? What would it look like if you tried to tackle it just one small piece at a time?